Hey there, Heather, ho there, it's Jeff Cutter Diamond welcoming you to yet another Degrassism, and today we're doing another poll video. Excuse me, I burped. And today is the top 10 Degrassi jump the shark moments. Do 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 do. Go Gators. Wrong song. Nevertheless, so I did a post last week about talking about how Miss Mojo, on YouTube, did a thing about the top times TV shows jump the shark, and it got me thinking. It's like, well, Degrassi has had some jump the shark moments and all that. I just wanted to know what the biggest one in Degrassi history was, and I got 10 of them, and then I put the 10 of them in to two prelim polls, and then got a 1 to 6 and a 7 to 10 poll set up. So that's what happened. There were a couple of ties on both the 1 to 6 and the 7 to 10 polls. So I'll break the ties myself. All right, so number 10 on the list is Time Stand Still. Honestly, I don't know why that would be there, but I needed to make 10. A lot of people say Time Stand Still was Jump the Shark because, it changed Degrassi forever. It was like, you know, the problems that Degrassi students face now are more critical and cynical and all that stuff. The fact of the matter is that Time Stand Still changed a lot of people's characters. Jimmy, of course, was in the wheelchair and trying to find his place in the world. Um, Paige, it didn't really change her that much. It just made her come closer to Olander, which was kind of pathetic. Ellie, excuse me, the Time Stand Still part ruined her because she and Sean were living in student housing, and then all of a sudden Sean left for Wasaga Beach for his PTSD, and Ellie was all by herself, all by myself. Um, Spinner and Jay were expelled for their roles in the whole Pain and Feathers thing. Well, of course, Spinner told on himself and Jay, and Spinner had to do a redemption song, although that worked. And Jay was still the devil on everyone's shoulders. Raj, of course, was turfed because of his inattentiveness and all that. I think basically a lot of things combined to get rid of him. Um, and especially Emma. Like, she had the number one aftermath. Sorry, Jimmy. But Emma's personality changed a lot. She wasn't really into the causes as much. She really was more clingy towards trying to find a boyfriend and for staying with Manny and Liberty. You can see she basically, she didn't have Manny and Liberty in the whole Rick storyline because she screwed up by trying to ruin Liberty and Chris's relationship. So yeah, I can understand why people say that's a jump the shark moment. Number 9 is Emma's personality change. Speaking of which, that connected. So yeah, her personality changed. So Emma seemed to be fine and all that. Well, I'm Back in Black, the next episode after Time Stands Still. She bursts into Snake's room and cries at him, saying that everyone's looking at her different because they now know that Rick was going to kill her. And then hangs on to Sean when he goes to Westside Beach to find his parents. And then Sean decides to stay at Westside Beach to deal with his PTSD, leaving both Ellie and Emma high and dry. It was clearly, as you can see, Emma wanted to be with Sean because Sean saved her from a gun. If Toby did that, she would have latched on to Toby. Sure, it would have been a cringy plotline, but it made sense, n'est-ce pas? But anyway, Emma's personality change was big because by the time Secret happened, we learned that she's been internalizing things. People are walking on eggshells around her. She's not being attentive and stuff. And then Jay basically shows her the power of, the ravine. Emma starts to get her confidence back at the risk of having gonorrhea and all that, and the school is shunning her yet again. Emma then realizes she can't be the same girl. She was trying so hard to be the same girl pre shooting. Just couldn't. And so she has a different personality change. It's apparent when she's with Peter in season 5, even though Peter released a topless video of Manny. Are you nuts? Why would Emma do that? Emma probably just was so sure she wanted to be with a guy that she let her judgment cloud her. And of course, her trying to fit in with Sean season 6 wise prevent Sean from leaving her for the army. And of course, being with Damien and Kelly just to be there. It's crazy. Okay, so there was a tie for seventh. So I am going to go with number 8. Is Claire in the Weed Cult? Is the jump the shark? Because Claire was given some decent storylines and all that before the Weed Cult. Dealing with the chef's sexist views and not having any sympathy for Connor and his Asperger's syndrome. And then, Jenna stealing Casey from underneath Claire's nose, Claire's parents breaking up, Claire not having contact with Darcy, Claire being attracted to Eli even though that she thinks she shouldn't be, and a lot of things. And then she finds a boy named Jake who she likes. Unfortunately, though, Jake's dad likes Claire's mom. They marry, which means that Claire and Jake are step siblings. And even though Claire and Jake are that way, Claire still wants to go after Jake. And she hates the double standard about that how she's being treated a lot differently than Jake. And then, of course, the problems with her father not wanting to be around her. Claire then talks to this girl named Summer at the bookstore about her problems, and then she gets told she can live in this commune, which was a weed cult. Claire just wants to belong and all that. I'm not sorry, Eli. Jake brings her out of the slump, and finally she goes home. And then that's when all the stupid plots hit Claire. Like, her attempts to try to avoid Eli, but she couldn't. Yelling at Eli, did you flip a switch and erase me from your memory? Her cancer, her pregnancy, her miscarriage. Yeah, it was a miscarriage of justice, if you will. And at number 7 is Degrassi going down the movie route, seasons 8 and 9. So what ended up happening is that Degrassi decided to try something new. They decided to try something big, and that was to go have movies at the end of the seasons that they would be split into 4 episodes and all that. But trying to catch up with some people and have some great plot lines. In Degrassi Goes Manhattan, sorry, Degrassi Goes Hollywood, the first one in season 8, we find out that Manny gets a role in the Jay and Silent Bob musical, but her theater professor boyfriend Mick ruins it for her, and she tries to get it back after realizing how much Mick is a prick. Jay procures a bus from Degrassi, gets the studs, Peter's band to do it, and then they head to Los Angeles to get Manny's job back. Of course, that is creepy and all that. And also, that could have led to Shep's downfall. Well, Hatzelackles came back for Peter and his 24-hour drug habit. But the fact of the matter is that, Shep letting the, the Degrassi bus go in Jay's hands and then it goes across the border, the school board wasn't happy. Then you get mad. And then, of course, Paige is in Hollywood, but she's nothing more than a dog walker to a reality star. And so she tries to change everyone's perceptions of her, but she acts like a diva when she gets the Jay and Silent Bob part by accident. And, Marco's not too happy with Paige's change, and they both break up as friends for a while. Until Paige gets humbled finally, and then she gets Manny that part. And of course, what yeah, Paige's character assassination, that was one of the worst things possible. Because of the fact that, Paige was okay and all that, but it just showed that she was too desperate for things. And then Degrassi Goes Manhattan, we see the triple plot of Jane cheating on Spinner with a band member, which meant that Spinner was so upset. He would be doubly upset when he finds out that the dot burns down when he's supposed to be watching it and making sure that Emma did not burn it with the sandwich grill. Even though that Emma tries to tell Jay and Manny that she can't do that because she's not trained on it, Jay demands it. And unfortunately, Emma screws up and all that. It's weird how Emma would work at the dot in the first place. But anyhow, that led to Spinner and Emma going to Niagara Falls and accidentally getting married, and they decide to keep the marriage and all that because they both need each other in a sense. Jane tries to ruin the marriage, but of course, Manny stops it from Jane from making a big mistake. And of course, we had the twincest one, which actually is a top six. So I can I should stop right there. Actually, why don't I just do twincest as number six because it tied for fourth. There was a three-way tie for fourth, but twincest will be number six because then I can connect into it. So let's do it. Twincest number six. So Fiona and Declan were twins who were from an American diplomat. They were born in Japan. Of course, that diplomat moved to Toronto, so they're in Toronto. Declan causes trouble with Holly J. Fiona seems to be attached to Declan. You know how twins and telepathy and all that stuff. But Declan does not want Fiona coming close to him and all that. Fiona is worried about losing Declan to Holly J because she hates Holly J. And then at a soiree, she decides to kiss Declan to keep him close to her. Unfortunately, it backfires and Declan blows up at Fiona, saying that you can't always be connected with me and all of that. You need to find your own voice. So Fiona gets help and all that for her problems. The worst part was that it inadvertently led Fiona into Bobby's hands, and of course, Bobby being fucking abusive to her, she goes into alcoholism and all that. So Declan kind of had a hand in Fiona's downfall, inadvertently, I think. And Fiona then, strangely enough, in season 11, has a crush on Holly J and all of that. A lot of people probably said that Fiona was probably jealous of Declan being with Holly J because she wanted Holly J. But I doubt that uh, highly because why would she be with Bobby in the first place unless she was trying to hide her sexuality? I don't know. It just doesn't make sense. Number six. No, that was number six. Sorry. Number five is the telenovela era, seasons 10 to 13, when there was like 30 to 40 episodes a year. It's like, what the hell? So, anyway, Degrassi, there were a lot of changes and all that. We all expected Degrassi to end after 7 seasons with the whole graduation episode and JT's graduation tassel being turned because he graduated with the class in spirit. However, Degrassi was renewed for a few seasons, and then that's when the Lakehurst people took over and some Degrassi people for their storylines. And we did get to see college lines for Emma and her crew, which were cringy, especially with Emma trying to latch on to Manny and Liberty because Manny and Liberty, by the start of season 9, are not with Emma in her dorm. Liberty went to pre-law and Manny went to Hollywood. So Emma's practically by herself, and Kelly can't be in the dorm with her because Kelly got kicked off campus. And so Emma and Kelly do the recycle project, which doesn't work out. But the point I'm getting to is that at the end of season 9, it seemed to be the end. But somehow, some way, CTV lost the rights to first run episodes of Degrassi, and then Much Music and a U.S. substance decided to do it. And they decided to tinker with the format 30 to 40 episodes a year, a telenovela era, which is practically 4 episodes a week for many weeks and all that. And they were all two-parters. It was kind of awkward and all that. Sure, you can write the storylines, but I think they were trying to cram too much into too little space. And people were just upset by that. Season 14, they changed it back to a normal season. Okay, number 4 is Summer Girls turning into Next Class. Everyone, I'm actually shocked she wasn't top 2. But anyway, yes, Summer Girls. So in season 14, after finally, the episode in which Drew gets in trouble for his proposal to Becky and ends up saving prom because of a mistimed boat booking by Dallas, he runs foul of Pill, who wants to make an example out of Drew by not letting him cross the stage. It's like, why would you make an example out of Drew? I mean, how many underclassmen will join? And, you know, I think she's just trying to spread the word of things. Nevertheless, Drew does graduate thanks to the other seniors helping him out, and Pill is removed from principal. Well, Pill was going to be principal and all that. But then came Summer Girls, the 2-hour movie, which was split into 4 episodes, in which we saw Tristan using a vlog or video log to tell about the summer stuff, which Zoe is forced into summer school because of her problems with the Degrassi nudes. She tries to leech off of Winston and Miles and a few other people. And then, Frankie finds a boy while she's interns for her father, the mayor. And he tells her that his girlfriend is captured. He needs money. Unfortunately, it was an extortion plot. And the big thing was that Maya was trying to be a lifeguard to be with Miles, but Sig ruins it for her. Then Maya tries to be a nanny for a music producer, but she fails. This girl named Gloria gets it. But when Gloria is missing, Maya is next in line to get the job, and so she does. But Sig pops his head in and tells Maya to stand up to the music producer for not being with her kids so much. Maya does that. She tries to explain herself, but she gets canned. And then inexplicably, she decides to try to find Gloria, proving that she probably did not have the whole helping people problem to try to alleviate her guilt thing because she had guilt. And then all of a sudden, she tries to find Gloria, gets kidnapped herself. And guess what? It's Gloria and that guy from the internship. Turns out they were working together to extort $10,000 from the Hollingsworths and all that. The money's almost there, but fortunately, though, doing math and all that, instead of calling the parents and the police, if you will, sorry, Frankie, sorry, Miles and Winston find uh, Maya safe and sound. It does come to a happy ending and all that. It's weird how Degrassi Wiki said that Gloria was expelled from school because she was in jail. Like, how can you be? Isn't that automatic? Like, you're in high school and if you go to jail, you're automatically expelled? That's crazy. Nevertheless, Maya does get the nanny job back from the producer, and she actually does tell Maya that she does need Maya's help in the studio too while she watches the kids. And Maya smiles, saying she was on her way. Unfortunately, though, yeah. And then, Tristan wraps up the vlog by saying that if you think this class is weird, check out the next class. And we find out that Degrassi is going to be rebranded as Degrassi Next Class for Netflix. And there's some new students from war torn countries and all that. And there's always the whole anti Muslim rhetoric, which should not have happened in the first place. Of course, Next Class brought us the whole Hunter being an incel philosophy and ruining the feminists for ruining his gaming club. Frankie's racism poster or plot. Maya's guilt after Tristan gets hurt in a bus crash and then almost killing herself. Thankfully for her, Esme and Sig save her butt. And then, of course, Esme going off the deep end. And also, I mean, everyone says, okay, well, there was no payoff from the end of season 14 towards next class, that there wasn't a continuation. There could have been a continuation, and that Maya still had feelings of being guilty about things and trying to fix things. And, it doesn't work out. Kind of like Cam. Anyway, speaking of Degrassi nudes, guess what? That's number 3. And that is the whole thing with Degrassi nudes, is that it was number 3. So Degrassi news. Well, the storyline season 14 acts innocently enough. Spirit Squad wants, or the Power Squad now it's called, wants to have new uniforms and all that. So they decide to sell provocative pictures of them online to get the money and to get the new uniforms. Zoe is the cheer captain and she feels great about herself. Unfortunately, though, Frankie has second thoughts about it and tries to call out Zoe, but Zoe refuses to and basically tells Frankie, "You're out, and don't go to the cops or your dad about the situation because you know what? You're just as implicated." Unfortunately, though, Zoe then tells the students off, the girls off, and they basically cower behind her. It's soon a game of chicken between Zoe and Frankie, who blinks in the whole Degrassi nude situation. Principal Simpson tries to find out, but Zoe acts all innocent and sweet and all that. And then it all blows up in Firestarter when, there was a fire within the school because of a cheer competition. And then we find out that Winston planted the evidence on Zoe just to get Frankie back on the cheerleading squad. And then Zoe's, of course, pissed off that Winston would do such a thing just to please his girlfriend. However, Lola and the other cheerleaders tell Zoe that basically you need to confess your roles because they'll hate you further on and everything. So so Zoe decides to confess everything to the cops after talking to Sig. Of course, the other part of Firestarter was Maya starting to finally get her control because she helped Miles deal with his dad. And then she feels great and he's not going to be like Cam. But that was a lie. Nevertheless, so Zoe gets thrown in jail. Well, is told by her lawyer to, do stuff around the school and maybe they'll get the sympathy and she'll stay out of jail or juvie in the first place. So yeah, they basically threaten Zoe with 5 years in jail and all that. She does try to make friends again at the end of season 14, but fails in a sense. And then, of course, nothing happened. And then when Next Class happened, there was like no mention of Zoe's problems from the previous season, from her Degrassi nudes thing. They made her into a good girl, which is like, what the hell? Zoe was a terrible person and all that. Now, we do give Zoe a break in season 13 because of her being taken advantage of by Luke Baker and his buddy Neil. But I feel that Zoe was so violated and all that. She wanted control of her body. She decided to use the Degrassi nudes thing to try to get back in power and be the Zoe she knows she can be. Yeah, a bitch. Number 2 is Emma marrying Spinner. Well, yeah, I kind of touched on that, but I'll go more into detail. Yeah, Emma marrying Spinner and all that. Well, remember, this was kind of the end of Degrassi season 9. That's what we all thought. But then there were more. So yeah, Emma and Spinner. Well, Emma came back home to Toronto with her tail between her legs in season 9 because of the whole fact that when she was at Smithdale, she ended up getting too involved with trying to keep Kelly, Manny, and Liberty around so much and try to prove people wrong, saying that she's not bland, vanilla, and blonde and predictable. She does the weed storyline, of course, which made her massively cringe because that's how much Emma wants to be close to people. And that was actually Liberty's last on screen performance before the movie. So then, Liberty aside, Emma hangs on to Kelly a lot and, cracks are in the relationship in Holiday Road. And Kelly decides to go back to the Yukon to get a job instead of being with the stupid recycle project. Emma basically is all by herself, and then during the presentation at Degrassi, she admits that she's so desperate for friends, she ends up skipping many classes to be liked and all that. And now Kelly's gone, so she doesn't have a purpose and all that. So basically, that's all there was to it. And then she then tells Snake and Spike that Manny is in Hollywood. Liberty went to pre-law. She had nobody around, so she was trying to latch on to Kelly to get some semblance of normalcy. Nevertheless, she then decides to take a job at the Dot of all places, even though she's a vegetarian. Spinner then tries to teach her some stuff, but then he runs off trying to catch Jane and all that, and leaving Emma in charge of a hot sandwich grill, which she is told not to use, but she uses because Manny and Jay pressure her into it. Spinner and Emma go to Niagara Falls. They end up getting married. Emma doesn't know what to do, but Spinner stays with Emma, even though that Jane wants to be back with Spinner, and then even saved her science fair project. The one that she won in season 2. How did he have possession of it? So anyway, they decide to have a beach wedding and all that. Jay officiates, and the Degrassi people are in the crowd, except for this so-called Toby guy. You can't fool Degrassi people's eyes. Anyhow, so Emma marrying Spinner was big. And then when they came back in Thriller Rock Thursday, they're still married. Everyone was like, oh, they could have separated. Now they did. And numero uno is, I kind of figured this was going to be number 1, but it's Jay and Silent Bob go Degrassi. Hey, So here's what happens in the movie. So at the end of season 4, Degrassi gets to be the shoot for a new Jay and Silent Bob movie called Jay and Silent Bob Go Canadian, eh? And to me, it's like, why did they get a movie set? I thought they were kind of punished because of the whole Rick situation, and they didn't handle it that well. And I think that Hatzelackles was trying to solely up to the big bucks and all that. And it's like she was trying to pander. Raj was trying to pander with the whole musical, Sunny musical thing, trying to get Degrassi off everyone's backs, but failed miserably and got canned for it. So yeah, that's kind of awkward and all that. Spinner does make an appearance in this episode with Jay, but they're caterers. And basically everyone keeps an eyeball on them because they're technically expelled. But nevertheless, this was the episode in which, you know, Kevin Smith has the crush on Caitlin, aka Stacey Matician, and then, causes trouble with Joey while Caitlin goes to LA with Kevin. It was a nice storyline to see Joey and Caitlin back together and all that because Caitlin did buy Joey's house in season 4 to help him stay off the homeless route. But the fact of the matter is that, yeah, it ruins that Caitlin Joey dynamic. It made Caitlin look more stupid than she was in Degrassi High. And also, this was the episode in which Craig is upset that Ash was headed to England. And people actually did say, did Ashley purposely do this to get away from Craig? Probably, probably not. I think in a sense she wanted to get away from the drama, but an internship in England with her dad, how are you going to pass that up? And Craig doesn't take that well. He gets off his meds. He's in the boiler room. People are trying to find him. You know, yeah. So anyway, those are your jump the shark moments and all that. I wish there was a literal shark. Who would jump a literal shark? Probably JT. I don't know. Anyway, I'm jumped. I'm going to do.